Take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You made your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
With all the complexities of life, filled with its myriad of challenges and unpredictable twists, one of the most profound powers we possess is the ability to stand up for ourselves and those we hold dear. Advocacy. This is our sword and shield in the arenas of healthcare, education, workplace, and in the intricacies of legal and social structures. It's about making your voice heard, ensuring rights are respected, and securing the resources and respect that you or your loved ones deserve. Imagine navigating a stormy sea. Just as a lighthouse provides guidance to sailors, understanding how to advocate effectively illuminates the path through turbulent times, ensuring safety and direction when it feels like none exist. Whether it's dealing with a chronic illness, facing barriers in healthcare, education, or overcoming workplace discrimination, the essence of advocacy lies in the courageous act of not only speaking out, but also in crafting strategies that lead to real change. But how do we find our voice in a world that too often seems too loud? How do we build the confidence to step into the light and assert our needs and our rights? The first tool is knowledge. Educate yourself about your rights and the laws that protect them. Knowledge is not just power, it's empowerment. It transforms doubt into action and action into change. Next, communication. Clear, consistent, and compelling. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. It's about telling your story in a way that moves others to listen, understand, and act. It's about building alliances because the challenges might be personal, but the issues are universal. Technology, while it definitely is a double-edged sword in many ways, it can also be a modern-day ally, offering unprecedented access to information, support networks, and platforms for visibility. From apps that help organize medical information to forums that connect you with experts and advocates worldwide, the digital world is rich with tools that can amplify your voice and extend your reach. As we delve into this important discussion, remember, advocating for yourself or a loved one is not just about facing what's in front of you. It's about paving the way for others who will walk the path after you. It's about setting precedents, about changing perceptions, and above all, about ensuring dignity and justice are not just ideals, but realities. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to any of the hosts by emailing them directly to nurses@americaoutloud.com. We would love to hear from you. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. My guest today has been a licensed registered nurse for over 20 years. After practicing nursing, she attended law school and worked in leadership roles within hospitals, and in particular with medical staff. She is here today to share an innovative method of asserting your right to consent, or conversely, to not consent with your physician should you find yourself a patient in the hospital. Our hospital insider is joining us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Hello, Kimberly. How are you doing? It's so good to be here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you on and to just listen to your insights on this incredible document that you yourself have crafted and created. So I'd love to, if you would share with my listeners a little bit about why you drafted this document and, kind of deconstruct it for them and let them know what it's about and how they can use this to empower themselves.
Oh, absolutely. This is the first podcast that I've ever done on this document, and I'm so thankful that I get to talk to a portion of your audience that are nurses and to people that are just really interested in knowing how to empower themselves for their health. I did draft this document for myself. It's based on my experience that I've had within the healthcare system and lots of different experiences that I had, but it also is something that I drafted that I wanted to make sure that the average person could grasp a hold of and just own it for themselves. So with your permission, what I'd like to do is I'd like to deconstruct it and, and just remind everyone that, I did it for myself. It's not really legal advice. It's something I did for myself that I'm sharing for everyone. And you can use that or modify it. But if we can get to the principles of it, I think it's going to be something that would be very helpful. So first thing, with your permission, if I can get the people to take a piece of paper and you can pause the podcast to get ready. And I'm going to go through a little timeline to kind of explain how this works.
Absolutely. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. So first thing, what we're going to do is try to make this concrete. So when you get a piece of let's take like a notebook size paper, notebook sheet of paper. Now that you have the paper, draw a line and go a third of the way in from the edge of the margin. So you're going to go in a third and then draw the line to the end of the way to the end of the page. And on the left side of the paper, at the beginning of the line, you're going to make a big dot. And underneath this big dot, draw a door and write enters hospital. Now, at the end of the line, at the very end of the page, draw another dot and write exits hospital and draw a door there too. Halfway on the line, place a large dot in the middle and write advance directive. Under the word advance directive, that dot, write, I can't communicate my wishes and my physical condition is in big trouble. Oh no. And see, here's what I got a little creative and I drew a little stick figure on the side and I'm laying down and I got a little hospital gown and I put a little X over my mouth so that you can see that I just can't really communicate for myself. That's what the document was supposed to do. But I'm in big trouble by the time that kicks in. Now, below the area where you wrote enters the hospital and advance directive, write electronic medical record. Okay, so let's pause and think here about what's happening between the entering the hospital and the exit the hospital. And particularly, let's think about what happens during conflict. How would, if you're a nurse, how might you characterize someone that you're having a conflict with about an issue when you write a free text note in the electronic medical record? What are some things that you've seen, Kimberly?
And so some things that I've seen as far as if I'm having a conflict with a patient, we're going to make sure that we are painting a pretty clear picture. The tone of voice that they use, if they are acting in a combative manner, in a threatening manner, all of that's going to be put into the document. Okay. And really, it's about perception, right?
Right.
It might not be their intention, but how am I perceiving it?
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, there probably are circumstances, hopefully not very many, but I've seen them where sometimes a document is used really because it's in the control, the legal document is control of the hospital. You may have a situation where someone writes, the patient was raising their voice loudly, they're combative, and really they're not any of that. They're just literally just trying to assert my no means no. Yeah. So you've seen where, and sometimes I guess in some terms, some nurses might say it's CYA. I'm just covering myself to make sure I get the best, I'm slanting this in the best light that I can, but still trying to appear objective. So if you keep in mind that the electronic medical record really isn't something that the patient gets, well, it isn't something the patient gets to write into at that point. It's really controlled by the hospital. Now, what I want you to do on the very, and at the top, let's go to the top and let's label this. We're going to put at the top of this line, time is not my friend. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is because in conflict in a hospital, the longer the delay, often the worse the outcomes. So if you have a conflict in asserting what you desire, the longer you wait, the worse the outcomes. Now, here's what we're going to do for this page, and then I'll jump into the document. I'm almost done. On the blank space to the left of the line, I want you to make a big, giant, beautiful dot and write in all caps, Jehovah's Witness and blood products. So let's talk a little bit about that. What do we know about Jehovah's Witness and blood products? What have we learned? I mean, if you're even a baby nurse, what have we learned about Jehovah's Witness and blood products?
They don't accept blood products.
Right. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's their right to do so. Even when we might disagree, in that circumstance, it is absolutely their right to not accept any blood products.
It's that strong. It's that strong, and it's that ubiquitous that everybody knows about it. And their wishes to not have blood accidentally given. So it's their walkie-talkie, and it's contemporaneous with their faith. They do not want to have any blood accidentally given at any point. So at that point, they're not waiting till they get in the hospital. They make sure that people know they don't want blood. That's their faith. It's deep. It's the basis of their faith. That's part of what this document builds into it. And, we have to look at that timeline. Their faith does not magically kick in and have a conversion at that advanced directive where you don't give them blood. They don't want anybody accidentally giving them blood or blood products or blood derivatives during their stay. That's why they make it known ahead of time. Listen, during my stay, you don't accidentally, even while I'm cognizant and completely competent and able to have total capacity, I don't want you to accidentally give me something that I do not want, that is against my faith. Okay? So that is really one of the things that we're going to look at. And we're also going to look at, who do they consent to? So when we're talking about consent for Jehovah's Witness, really, who are they talking to? Who under the state licensing structure can order treatments?
The physician.
The physician, right? Order tests, order treatments, order medications, order blood. It's the physician. So we're looking at those. So those are some of the tenets that we're going to look at as we go through this document. So if I can get everyone, if you want to pause now and you want to open your laptop and just run over to go to ourpatientrights.com. It'll pull up a protocol kills link, and then we'll go down to the instructions for the caregivers and consent document, hospital document. Okay, got it? All right, so we're on that page. Let's go and look at the document now. We're going to focus on, scroll all the way down. We're going to scroll past the how do you deliver it and the instructions. Let's get into why this works. Remember, we are the dot ahead of ever entering the hospital. That's where we're going to anchor ourselves in space and time there. So when we do this document, we're going to write, and remember, we have this document prepared before we ever go in a hospital, just like Jehovah's Witness have all their blood wishes known before they ever enter. We're going to let them know that my name, advise all physicians, nurses, and other caregivers that this caregivers and consent document reflects my current wishes for my care and are carefully planned and intentional wishes. This caregivers and consent document also reflects my deeply held religious and spiritual beliefs. Please ensure that this caregivers and consent document is clearly accessible in the electronic medical records at all times for all of my providers. Second paragraph is key. Receipt of this caregivers and consent document by the hospital serves as notice. Notice is a legal term. Notice that I will report to the medical board any physician who violates my carefully planned and intentional wishes that are based upon my deeply held religious and spiritual beliefs and are delineated within this caregivers and consent document. That paragraph that I wrote is very key for me, so that I'm letting my physician, any physician that touches me, know that anything within this document, and we'll talk about how you actually assert your rights through the document, but anything within this document is a carefully planned and intentional. Intentional means it is not negligence. Intentional means that if you violate my intentional lack of consent, It is sort of like when a doctor walks into a patient's room and slaps the patient. That's intentional. It's not negligence, because negligence is an accident, right? You breached a duty. This is literally intentional. And I do not believe that a physician would be covered by their liability practice carrier should he breach the intentional wishes of a patient. So you've got an intentional tort. The other thing I have is a medical board complaint. I'm going to report you to the medical board. I gave you notice, the hospital received it, and I can prove that the hospital received it, and you're violating that portion of my document. And the third thing is, these are my religious beliefs. My religious beliefs are just as valid as Jehovah's Witnesses' religious beliefs. You can't discriminate against me. These are my religious beliefs. And truthfully, I'm going to put it on a different tack. A good physician would rather you over communicate your wishes. There are good ones out there. And they would much rather you tell them than for you to withhold the truth of what your belief systems are, if it will affect your care. So I'm letting them know ahead of time, this is based upon these three things, and I will report you. And you have a right now, medical physician, to go to your committees that are trying to make you push a protocol that I don't want, and say, hey, you're not going to cover me before my medical board. That I'm going to bear that. That's my license. In fact, my license will follow me throughout my career. I may not stay at this hospital. It's a big impetus to say they will protect their license and probably talk with their colleagues about this document as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and go forward. And then also we did talk about how they're not going to have their insurance carrier for negligence cover them if it's an intentional tort. Okay, so let's go further. So I've got a heading there, and it says, my carefully planned and intentional wishes that are based upon my deeply held religious and spiritual beliefs include. You're going to notice a laundry list here. Now, this is what I made for myself. Someone can make something different for themselves, but this is for me. And this is what I put in my document for myself. So I made sure that every time I want to highlight something, I have a little line to the left. That line to the left is not meant to be checked or X'd. I am literally going to pretend that let's pretend you're leasing an apartment or you're buying an asset. You're going to initial each page. My initial goes right there. So I'm going to initial, I don't consent. Every item that I select for myself, which is all of them, I'm going to initial next to it so they can see that that's intentional. Those are my initials. So let's go down and look at some of them. Right now in hospitals, they're still giving things such as the COVID vaccine. Now, in my mind, you can do that outpatient if you really want to get it done. And again, this document could be, there are people who may look at this and say, I want the COVID vaccine. I want all these things. Okay, great. Modify it or don't use it. But for me, I don't want it. I don't want you to accidentally do it. I don't want you I don't want any confusion on any of this. So I'm going to say initial here. I don't want that. I also don't want the pneumococcal vaccine. So no, I'm going to say no. I don't want any vaccine for any purpose or disease. That's also an option. And then this was designed during the height of COVID. So a lot of the stuff that's here may not apply because we don't have the respiratory issues that we used to have, but it still applies. I would say that, looking at the vaccine part, yeah, I don't want any of this. I'm making it known right now. Again, Jehovah Witnesses, make sure that they do not get blood at any point during their stay. You're not going to try to, the doctor can talk to them, but they've got the documentation behind them to say don't. I want the same option. Okay, so I'm looking down, and I did have some concerns at one point when I heard a lot of folks who were very upset about ventilators say, I don't want any ventilator no matter what. And I'm like, yeah, I want a ventilator in case I have a heart attack and they need to do bypass surgery. But I don't consent to it until I have a chance to talk to the doctor about it. This is not going to be a pro forma thing that they just do. I have to agree to it. Does that make sense, Kim? Hello?
It does.
Okay, perfect. So looking at that as I'm scrolling down, I'm going to scroll down to page number, let's see, something else. Okay, so let's talk about the blood transfusions. If you go towards the second page and you go towards the bottom, it says, I do not consent to receiving any blood transfusions that contain blood products derived from COVID-19 vaccinated donors or COVID-19 variant vaccinated donors. Pretty simple. I'm actually kind of closer to Jehovah's Witness with that statement.
Right.
So we're closer there. And then there's a blank spot. Why do I have that blank spot there? Because there are people who have allergies. And again, over communication, if you're going to have a good quality program, you should care that people communicate enough. I think most problems in hospitals probably happen, many problems, not most, but many probably happen due to lack of communication or some communication failure. I want to over communicate, hey, I'm allergic to bananas. I may forget to tell somebody if I'm in a crisis that I'm allergic to bananas, but if I get bananas, I can't breathe. So I also do not consent to the following: bananas or whatever medication or whatever types of things. You've had a failure of a type of medication. You used to have an ACE inhibitor, but it made you cough. So no, I can't have those. So you let people know any other things that you don't consent to. And I think that would be the free text, that if you can find some very specific things related to you, you'd want to fill that out. And if you fill it out, initial that as well. If you don't fill it out, don't initial it. That's pretty common sense. Now let's go to the third page, page 3 of 3. And this is the key that I found when I was advocating, that I felt was very frustrating, is that people would say no. This is during the height of COVID, and yet their consent was not respected. They would have someone write in the record that there was an implied consent. They nodded. They were asleep and they mumbled something. I don't want any mistakes. I'm walkie-talkie. I want it this way. All the items in this caregivers and consent document shall remain in effect unless I choose to revoke in writing. No one else may alter or amend this caregivers and consent document. Very key. There are mechanisms that if I am walkie-talkie, you can try to convince me no, but you're never going to get an implied consent out of me. I'm going to have to put it in writing for my change of opinion to count. Does that make sense? And in a way, it protects doctors as well, because it does give you the opportunity to explain your perspective. And it gives, you can explain your perspective. And if that makes sense. You've got a new set of facts, then okay, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and revoke that portion. I can do that.
And then that door to get some education, because too often informed consent is just not given.
Right, and that's true. Informed consent is not given. So this gives you an opportunity to ensure that there's not any mistakes, and not any implied, not anything that someone could construe as a consent. And below that, you're going to notice it says signature acknowledged before notary. Why did I do that? Because I want a person who is not related to me, and has no skin in the game, to notarize that that's my actual signature and those are my initials. That's why when you look at it, you will see the signer appeared to the undersigned, and that this personally appeared to me. Okay, so you've got that information. And again, on this particular document, with any notarized document, you don't sign the document before you get before notary. So save that portion. I think we're getting up on the break at this point.
We've got about 5 minutes or so left.
We still have 5 minutes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've gone through some of the consent. Any questions that you have on what I just explained?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to I want to first of all just thank you for what you've done, because we've used this document in our advocacy services for our clients and members at Remnant Healthcare, and it's been a game changer. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that feedback. I've gotten the feedback as well from Laura Bartlett, and she's given me some very good feedback as far as how people were treated once this document made it into the medical record, and just the difference between a previous visit and then the visit after they had this in the record. Thank you so much for that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'd like to go ahead. So with that in mind, let's go into how do I get it into the medical record? Speaking of getting into the medical record, if you will scroll all the way to the top of the page. So we're going to go all the way to the tippy top. It says general instructions for letter to send with caregivers and consent document. So the way I designed this particular letter is that this letter is also going to be notarized. You can kind of look at this as, I like to think of it as an insurance policy. Look at it as, advanced directive. You keep the original. It's something that you can change, but it's something that you want to keep safe. And this letter also goes along with that. So if you look at the general instructions for letter to send with caregivers and consent document, it's going to be very specific and intentional as well. Complete all the blank areas in the heading. It's very simple instructions. Complete the signature block only before notary, and attach this letter to your caregivers and consent document when you mail and courier service. And we'll talk about that how we're going to get notice and how we're going to have receipts so that we have the evidence that they did receive the document. Okay, so here's the letter. To all healthcare providers, for patient named, my name, with date of birth, my date of birth. And then I wrote, and all representatives, subsidiaries, parent companies, attorneys, chief of staff, chief quality officer, medical executive committee, board of trustees, care of chief executive officer for the hospital. RE, regarding caregivers and consent document. Attached is my caregivers and consent document. Please ensure that this caregivers and consent document is clearly accessible in the electronic medical record at all times for all healthcare providers. Thank you in advance for your attention to this matter. And then, of course, you've got the signature block that we're not going to sign until we get before notary. But I'm going to go back and tell you why this letter is designed the way it is. So if you look up here, I've got care of who? Chief Executive Officer. Why? The Chief Executive Officer is the highest managerial level for conducting business for that hospital. It's not the medical records person I want it to go to. I want it to go to the CEO. And if you do it in a certain format to the CEO, you have a better chance of making sure that more eyes are upon this. And I've actually seen this sort of information, how information like this does get passed through different committees. So you want it to go to the Chief Executive Officer, but I also want him to know that I want everybody to know about this, because the more eyes I tell you that I will put on this, better chance I have that it will be respected. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? So I want eyes on this. I want a lot of light on this. And that's why I put everybody I could think of in that. So we're going to let's scroll down to general instructions for caregivers and consent. Okay, so here's the part where I said, read every word. I think we live in a society where it's really easy to assume someone else can do something for us. And I think part of the revolution of healthcare is for patients to be empowered to understand and make informed decisions themselves, and to get as much information as they can get. So I think what I really want to hit as we go through after the break is really talk about why I want it delivered a certain way, because I want to make sure that this makes it into the record, and that anyone who uses this document, and especially read me, I want to make sure personally that it makes it in there. And this is how I'm planning on doing that.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. We're gonna hit the break, but when we get back, we're gonna dig into the rest of this incredible document. But thank you so much I've got my paper over here with all my little drawings on it, so I'm playing right along with you, and I appreciate it so much.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser, anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa, 24/7, Great Talk Radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcasts, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products from Chemical Free Body. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market today, with Chemical Free Body, you won't have to worry about harmful ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nanosilver technology destroys pathogens, balances the microbiome, and boosts immunity. All of these products are proudly made in the USA and are backed by an unheard of double your money back guarantee. I've made a twice daily Green 85 drink part of my routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Hey everyone, this is Nurse Kimberly Overton, your Wednesday host on Nurses Out Loud. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products from Chemical Free Body. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market today, with Chemical Free Body, you won't have to worry about harmful ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nanosilver technology destroys pathogens, balances the microbiome, and boosts immunity. I've made a twice-daily Green 85 drink part of my routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. Be sure to tune in to Nurses Out Loud Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death and disability. Today's high-stress, on-the-go lifestyle makes it hard to stay heart healthy. Lifestyle changes like exercise and diet are critical, but you can also support your heart with concentrated nutrients. Healthy Cell created Heart and Vascular Health to support 3 aspects of heart health: cholesterol, blood pressure, and triglycerides, with CoQ10, vitamin K2, resveratrol, and soluble fiber. And Healthy Cell's not a pill. It's a patent-pending gel you swallow with ultra-absorption of science-backed ingredients. You would need to take 13 pills to get the same amount of nutrients in each gel pack. And these great-tasting gels come in a small packet. Tear off the top, shoot it down, or mix it in water. Get heart healthy. Go to healthycell.com and use code OUTLOUD for 25% off your first order. Healthycell.com, code OUTLOUD for 25% off.
I've got 2 questions for you. Have you been feeling off since COVID? Are you struggling with lingering symptoms? You're not alone. As Dr. Peter McCullough says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Introducing the wellness company's Spike Detox Trio. This powerful supplement combines nanokinase, bromelain, and turmeric to support your immune system and fight off harmful spike proteins. Nanokinase improves circulation, while bromelain boosts antiviral defenses, and turmeric reduces inflammation. It's not just another supplement. It's a scientifically backed solution to help you bounce back from COVID. Imagine waking up filled with energy, feeling clear-headed and vibrant again. It's possible with Spike Detox Trio. Reclaim your health now by visiting twc.health/outloud and use promo code OUTLOUD for 20% off your first order right now.
I'm Dr. James Bragman. Do you suffer from allergies, sinus problems, or just seem to be getting sick more often? You're not alone. Many of my patients are finding relief with Cofix RX nasal spray. I've relied on the sanitizing power of povidone iodine for years. Cofix RX has harnessed that power to help cleanse germs, allergens, and viruses in your nasal cavity. You brush your teeth and wash your hands daily. Stay healthy by using Cofix RX to wash and cleanse your nose daily. Get Cofix RX today. Go to America Out Loud Shop and click on the Cofix RX banner, or type in cofixrx.com/outloud. Buy now and receive a 20% discount with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
You wouldn't go a day without brushing your teeth or washing your hands. What about washing your nose? I mean, your nose does filter the air you breathe, air loaded with bacteria, viruses, and irritants. Make nasal hygiene part of your routine with Clear. No messy bottles to fill, no drowning sensation. Clear is a natural drug-free saline with the added benefit of xylitol, which blocks bacterial and viral adhesion. Available in stores and online at clear.com. That is XLEAR.com.
In just 2 minutes per day, you could reclaim your health and cut your grocery bill in half with one simple, convenient product. Our doctor-formulated Green 85 juice formula's powerful dose of ultra-concentrated essential nutrients stops hunger in its tracks and supplies your cells with what's missing in the grocery store food. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/outloud today. Get nature's super multivitamin Green 85, empower your immune system, cut down on your grocery bill, and save 20% on your first order.
Prepare for the next pandemic with the Wellness Company's Contagion Emergency Kit, designed by Dr. Peter McCullough. Get life-saving medications like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, plus a free nebulizer and a guidebook for safe use. Order now by going to twc.health/outloud and use code OUTLOUD for $65 off your first order plus free shipping.
Well, the year 2024 must be the year of the Patriot, and AmericaOutloud.news will equip you with all the information you need to give new meaning to the words Patriot Act. For our actions always ultimately define our words. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. America Out Loud Talk Radio. Liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud and America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with a courageous hospital insider who is sharing her insights on how to keep you and your loved ones safe in a dangerous and corrupt sick care system. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks. Hey, Kimberly, I want to go back and start with that. We left off with the general instructions for caregivers and consent. I want to go back and reread and go back over the importance of the very first line. Read every word. It says important. Read every word. Initial all portions that apply to the left. Do not make an X, a check mark or an X. Use your initials. The reason that's important is that in order for this to be taken seriously, it needs to look like a serious document. It needs to look like you meant everything that you did. Everything was intentional. I want everyone to receive that as such. So you want to go through that and you want to make sure that you make the check mark, you make the X, you don't make a check mark, you don't make an X, but you use your initials, you're intentional. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and go through each of the items on this general instructions, because part of what makes this work is how you do it. It's not just doing the document and having it, it's how you make it work and how do you get it through the system. So we've already talked about who we're addressing. We're addressing the hospital CEO, but we're going to go through some different variations of how you get this in and how I ensure that you have the receipts to prove that you gave that to them and they had notice, legal notice. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at underneath the general instructions for caregivers and consent is that next bullet point that says, write anything you are allergic to or medications or treatments that you don't want administered in the blank lines in the fillable area. We talked about that earlier, that big blank spot with a lot of lines. But I want to make sure that people understand that really is a great place to write what you don't want, that you have considered carefully, and especially if you have allergies. You know, if you didn't use this document for anything but that would be great, because you can't over communicate that. Like I said, I'm highly allergic to bananas, so very important. The next item bullet point is notarize the document. So again, when we notarize something, we're having a third party validate that person appeared before me and they signed it. So there's no mistakes that someone forged a document or made up something, or somebody did it under duress and it's signed by, grandma did it and grandson signed, made her initial things. No. I want to make sure that they understand this is me and I am appearing before them. The other issue is they need to be served. This is very important. They need to be delivered, to the hospital only when you enter the hospital and become a patient. Why? Hospital has no legal relationship with you before that. And I think that's where I've had some confusion, is that people have said, oh, I've got this document and I'm going to send it to all the hospitals around me so they'll have it. And I'm like, they're under no obligation to keep that because you're not a patient. They'll probably mail it back to you. There's no obligation. The relationship only starts when you enter the system. Think of it like a funnel. Only when you jump into that funnel do you actually get the document going, get it started. And we'll talk about how you're going to make sure that that document makes it to the hospital safely. Okay, so should you become hospitalized and therefore unable to personally send the document as outlined in these general instructions, arrange ahead of time to have a designated family member or friend send copies of the document on your behalf to the hospital CEO. Why is that important? Because you could be in a car accident, you could have multiple things happen. Educating up your support network, getting them leveled up as far as understanding what happens, what is the sequence of events, how this gets into your record, so that they can help you. That you physically can't go out there and get those things. Very important. And I would encourage, perhaps maybe Remnant would consider, offering a service where people could store documents and then, sort of do a turnkey or some sort of operation where you help get this into the medical record and do this process for them. Because I think when people are under stress, it's harder. You've got the document, but all these other steps and making sure that they get done. It's nice if you have a person who's not involved, who's an advocate to help you get it in place.
Yeah, we would definitely be willing to look at that and see how we can help. Absolutely.
That would be a great service, a great service for your members, really.
Yeah.
So here's the next step of this. I want to talk about how we're going to go through it. So when you make this document, you're going to make at least 10 copies of the original notarized documents for extras. So my ballpark number is 10. You're going to keep this original caregivers and consent document in a safe place. Think of it like, a will. You don't just leave a will laying around. You don't give people the original will. The original will is there when you need it, but you want to make sure that you keep it safe. So guard that. That is something that is a legal document for you, for your legal consent. You're going to mail to the hospital the letter. So we talked about the letter and a copy of the caregivers and consent document. So what I decided to do for myself is that I'm using United States Postal Service priority mailer and a certified mail with return receipt requested. I'm going to address the priority mailer to the CEO at the hospital's physical address, or at the CEO for that hospital system is not at that hospital. Some are organized different ways. I'll send it to that address. I'm not going to mail the copy of the letter until I'm a patient in the hospital. Because remember, the relationship does not begin until I've entered the system, I've entered the funnel. Third thing, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a redundant system. I'm not counting on something getting there in a day or two. I'm not counting on the U.S. Postal Service. I'm going to courier service a copy of the above letter and a copy of the caregivers and consent document to the CEO at the hospital's physical address. So I'm only going to courier service a copy of the letter once I'm a patient in the hospital. Why is that important? Because when I enter the hospital, I'm going to hold on to, so I've got my documents with me, hopefully, that I can give to a doctor. But should a doctor decide to say, I'm not going to take that, which I've actually heard on a different thing, someone wrote out, I don't consent, and he said, I'm not taking it, and he threw it in the trash. I'm going to tell that doctor, you might want to look at it because it's about to be noticed to you, because I have a courier service that has just been sent, or however you want to phrase that, so that he knows this is the document you'll want to look at. You're only going to courier service a copy once you're a patient in the hospital. So we have those two ways that we're going to do it. One is going to be snail mail, and the other is going to be courier service. And the nice thing about courier service that I learned is that there are so many courier services that will do things overnight, that can deliver at night for a hospital. They can deliver at all times of day. They can deliver on weekends. Some really good advice that I got from insight that I got from Laura Bartlett with Hospital Hostage Help was that if you need to, look at the nursing supervisor and address it to her. And that's a really good thing to do, because on weekends and after hours, there's no administration there, or holidays. So one of the things that I did put in the caregivers and consent, if you remember that first paragraph, I advised all physicians, nurses, and other caregivers. So it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, you're looped into this conversation as well, house supervisor. It's for all of you. So you have another option of being able to get that into the hospital through a courier service. And we do want to have that redundant system, and we want to keep those receipts. So you want to make sure that whoever initiates those deliveries, this is very important, knows to keep a copy of the letter and this caregivers and consent document with the certified mail number and return receipt requested for signature. So you have all the documentation. You also keep the courier service receipt information. So we've got the receipts for notice. You've been noticed. Remember that paragraph that said, receipt of this document serves as notice. This is my notice. Okay, so you're going to keep one always on your hand, on your person. I would say put it in your glove box, put it in your purse, take a picture of it with your phone. So you always have a copy of it with your phone. Keep a copy on hand to give to your providers. And again, this is where Remnant could really help to help get this process going and disseminate the information so that it is getting to those providers and can help facilitate that. Keep the additional copies of the caregivers and consent document for your records and to distribute as needed to other care providers. And then I list under numbers 6 and 7, for sure give it to these two people. Give a copy to the attending physician. You usually have one physician that's your air traffic controller, and he's going to get the consults coming in. So we want to give it to him, but you also want to give a caregiver's and consent document to your primary nurse, nurse, that she knows so that everybody's looped in. Because remember, when I address this in my first paragraph, I advise all physicians, nurses, and other caregivers that these are. So they'll want to know that, and good nurses would want that information. And then also you want to, one caveat that you want to do is you want to be sure and get access to your online medical records as soon as possible so you can verify that these documents have been added to the electronic medical record. I'll give you a chance. And it's also just a good idea, as you know, doing advocacy to get access to an electronic medical record and to look at your numbers and to look at things, just to keep on your healthcare and know what's going on while you're there. And then finally, you can use different wording or you can modify. And this is really key. I am all about, I'm a Christian, but you don't have to be a Christian to use this document. Just like I'm not Jehovah's Witness, but I'm using the religious aspect of this. But, you know, I'm not going to, you could be Muslim, you could be Buddhist, you could be anything. And you could say, I want to use this document based upon my religious beliefs. This is for however you want to use this. This is not something that's, you know, I haven't copyrighted this. This literally is a living document. You can choose to use it. You can choose to modify it, or, you know, the takeaway that I want you to know is you can clearly communicate in writing your consent or lack thereof in any way, form that you want to. I would just suggest that you look at the principles, look at the concepts, and if you're going to modify it, take those concepts and principles with you if you choose to use it. And honestly, I would love to see anybody who's got some advice as far as here's things that I liked about it. I would do this differently. I'm always open to feedback as far as how to improve for that. And I do want to talk a little bit about, you know, I think during the break we were talking about how have you seen it work? Yeah. And so here's some of the feedback I've gotten. One of the stories that I heard was it was a mother talking about her daughter, and she was going in to a hospital to deliver her baby. And she'd had an awful experience the first time for the first baby. So we're going around round 2, we're going to deliver the baby at this hospital. Contacted hospital hostage help, and she was able to explain to her how to do the document. They did it exactly right. They did exactly what they wanted. You know, they want to make sure that this pregnant woman does not accidentally get that vaccine or anything else that she doesn't want. And she was able to get that into the record. And the result was the best care that she had ever gotten. She said it was like night and day. Other examples I've heard of people who were going in, she was having a mastectomy, and it was an outpatient procedure, but she wanted to make sure that as she went into the hospital or into the outpatient surgery center, that they understood that, you know, these are the things I do not want. Not just because they're going to do it in that facility, but let's pretend that she had a bleeder or something or some sort of emergency or an adverse reaction to anesthesia. Should she go on to the next place, these documents would follow her to that facility. So she's an outpatient, and of course they've got those transfer agreements, and if she's going to be transferred, this goes with me. So she made sure that she had that in her record. I would even say a nursing home, any relationship that you have where you have a physician-patient relationship, because remember, Our consent is not to the World Health Organization. We're not consenting to the hospital CEO. We're not consenting to the protocol maker or any of those things. Our relationship is with the person at the foot of our bed. It is doctor-patient relationship. It is sacrosanct. It is something that should not be violated. It should be upheld to the highest standards. It is something that is so ancient that it is some of the privileges that are emboldened in that are so ancient that we should really uphold the best ideals of humanity that are in that. So I would say, remember that your relationship, your doctor-patient relationship is the key to this. And if you keep that in mind and you keep reminding yourself, you'll remember that no matter what someone says that's mean to you, and this is something off an aside conversation, no matter what they say, I've got the document. The most important relationship I have is that person and me. Not these other people, it's you and me. And I want to make sure that you know it's between you and me, physician and patient, me. So you keep those things in mind, and then you can look at the places where you will have that relationship. And I would say it's really designed for that adult, competent, remember we talked about walkie-talkie, competent adult. It wasn't designed for children. It's designed for adults for that reason. It can, because I'm an adult. And also, I think about if I were elderly, it would still be good for me too. I mean, it's not saying just because I've got to be of a certain age to make it work. No, it's just as long as I'm mentally competent and I can make my decisions at the time I did this, then it follows me everywhere.
I do have a question. I do have a question about the document. So if I were a patient and would this document be something that I would have to complete for each individual hospital stay, or is it something that would remain in my record and would apply to future stays in the hospital, or would I have to do a different one every time?
It should stay in your record, but I would do this. I think you want to err on the side of caution and carefulness. So I would say every time I enter a hospital, because this letter is very generic and I purposely made it that way for myself, I wanted to make sure that they just know my name and my date of birth are two identifiers in hospital, usually our name and date of birth. What's your name? What's your date of birth? Okay, I can give you this medicine. I mean, that's the two identifiers for that, but I didn't put a date on it and I didn't put a name of a hospital on it. So that's an evergreen type of letter that you can use. But with that in mind, if I'm going to hospital in California and then I go to a hospital in New York, I'm going to these different places. I don't know what's communicated all the time between different providers. We all know that things get missed easily. I mean, you could be a patient in the hospital and there's errors that happen even within hospitals, or they have quality departments. So I would just make sure that every time I enter a system, I just go ahead and do this, err on the side of caution, make sure that those providers know, and you're in a different hospital, I don't want it to be lost in the document file. I want it to be every hospital CEO knows of every hospital that I go to, this is my wishes. This goes into your record. And if it's in your record already, more power to you. In fact, you'll want to look at it and you'll say, hey, this is in there. I want to make sure that everybody knows that for this person, hey, everybody, for the protocol, we're going to give everybody the protocol except this one. She's the exception. We're not going to risk that. And the doctor has every right to pull back and say, hey, you're not protecting my medical license. And, you have to look at it this way. I did have one question, and someone said, can you make somebody do something? I can't make somebody not do an armed robbery of a diamond store, right? I have cameras everywhere and there's diamonds. I can't guarantee that they won't. I can tell you the consequences could be very bad for whoever does it. The notice. And with this notice, you got I've let you know, and you should be really glad that we over communicated. I let you know that this is how important it is to me. And I also gave you an opportunity to do something that doctors need to learn how to do better, in my opinion, and that's communicate. If you truly believe that
You're not getting there.
Right. I mean, but if you truly believe something, then you have a right to try to explain it to me. I also have a right to say you're wrong. And I'm going to give you, I'm not changing. I'm going to give you something really quick. And are we almost at the time, or do I have about a minute?
Oh, we've got about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, real quick. So I'm going to tell you that really fast. If you'll look at the word budesonide right there, the requesting consent to the use of budesonide. This is really built when they were doing respiratory issues. I actually talked to a doctor who told me, hey, budesonide causes water on the lungs. And all I could think was, and it was, I was in the midst of trying to help someone buy time, because it's not about whether I win an argument. A win for me is, were you able to get out? That's a win. So I backed up. But I thought that was kind of interesting that a doctor would say something like that when the truth is we use it for COPD and kids with asthma. Don't they want to breathe? Wouldn't water impede them from breathing? I mean, it's ridiculous. So
much of that during COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just at the end of the day, I mean, it was a very I really did, it's based on the experiences that I had in the system, also my experiences working with people. And I looked at them like, if I were to make something for myself, what would I do? And this is how I would do it for myself. This is exactly how I would do it. And I'm so honored that, I'm so glad that we're talking to some nurses out there, because nurses are the best. Nurses are awesome. I love nurses. They are the best. They are the backbone of this healthcare system. When you have good nurses and you have nurses that, that we go back to our roots and we look at Florence Nightingale and we're advocates. Mm-hmm. When we do that, we are the best at what we do. And I'm so thankful that you as nurses are doing that for everybody. So grateful. Thank you for everything you do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and share this just incredible information with our listeners. We will include in the show notes, we'll include links to this document. We'll include links to the hospital hostage hotline that you can contact for help as well. And of course, to our advocates at Remnant Healthcare. Thank you again so much for your courage and for sharing this. You could have kept this for yourself, but you shared it with the world, which is kind of what I talked about in my intro, is that we can't just do for ourselves, but we've got to pave the way for others that are coming after us. And you have done just that. So thank you so much.
And thank you so much for partnering with me in this. I truly appreciate you, Kim. I really do.
Absolutely. And I look forward to future collaboration.
All right.
That is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and these courageous nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you, because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. You can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. Remember, we are in a war for truth. We are putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No topic is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.